Years ago, when I was in a class with you, we were working with the elements of nature, and wind, air, but specifically wind,
Right.
was one of the elements we were working with. And I was trying to review in my mind what you taught us about the wind, what it had to tell us. And I think I've forgotten. I thought I would ask a refresher on that.
Breathe deep, and that'll tell you something. Yes, okay. And life. See, one of the words for life in Hawaiian is the word ha. Ha is also a word that means breath and life and spirit. And it's a moving breath. It's actually a wind. This is why they didn't use the element of air. They didn't, until modern times, didn't even have a word for air. But they did have hundreds of words for winds. So one of the things was communication, of course. And the other thing, of course, was the power of the wind for the sailing. This is what helped them sail and move to different places. Okay. When we look at the wind, they also used in metaphorical speech, it had to do with thought. There was a relationship between wind and thought, between clouds and thought. And the clouds were carried by the wind. Now, if we look at some of the cloud forms, when we have one of the volcanic natures of volcanoes is that volcanoes form clouds. And Pele is let's use the English term, goddess of the volcano. And she had sisters who were like various clouds that were formed by the volcanic smoke and steam. Okay. And one of all the sisters actually were named Hi'iaka. And Hi'iaka means to carry something beloved. So she was a carrier, almost like Aquarius. A lot of people associate Aquarius with water, but because of the word, but actually it means the cloud bearer, the water bearer, which is the wind. It's the wind that carries the water, which gives life. Okay? And that's why, again, another word for spirit is water. And this was essential to life. And so these islands were considered so very sacred because of all the abundant rain which enabled people to live here. Not like just an atoll, which would be small and beautiful for tourists, but extremely hard to live on. Okay? So water and wind were related in this sense with the clouds and the rain, and the water was the one that brought life to the islands. So that's, again, metaphors having to do with thought, the way each of the winds had a direction, and that's how they were named. Not like our east, north, west, south directions. They didn't actually use those. But the different winds would have a direction that would be recognized, and they'd have a name for each one of these winds. And as I've told people, here on this island in Wainiha Valley, we have recorded the names of 60 different winds. Which means that the people in the valley, or the Hawaiians of the old days, were able to feel, to sense, maybe even to smell, and see the effects of things that would pass us right by. Because we have no way of naming it. We can't name it. On the other hand, we have all kinds of names for colors that they would never have recognized. Okay, so anyway, wind was a very, very important thing. In one of the legends of Pele, when she came over here to this island, the volcano goddess, when she came over here and she took Lohiau, the chief of Kauai, as a lover. Well, when she was not totally accepted by the sisters of Lohiau. And this happened here on the North Shore, at Ke'e Beach area. And so they had a contest. The sisters of Lohiau were actually sorceresses. and they challenged Pele because they had control of the winds. And Pele laughed, and she sat down on that point overlooking the ocean, and she chanted the names of all the winds of Kauai. And as each time she chanted the name of a wind, that wind would blow. And there were canoes being overturned in different places, and then boats going off in the wrong direction, and all kinds of things happening over the island, all kinds of disruption, because every time she chanted the name of a wind, no matter what season it was, while she was chanting it, that wind came up. And she knew every single wind and had the power of controlling those winds. So she won the contest, but because of her skill with winds. So this was an extremely important thing in old Hawaii. Now when we're looking at it ourselves, it's life, it's breath, it's direction, it's movement, it's change. It has all those things if we want to, either psychically or psychologically, as well as physically.
So when we physically whistle on the wind,
Yes.
what's happening there? Is it our intention of communicating and asking the wind to come up?
It is the intention in a state of calm confidence or doubtlessness. That produces the effect. Okay? Recently, now this had to do, I say, more with air than wind actually, but on this trip that I was on, recently I was doing a tour in Europe. And in one of the occasions, we were doing the workshop and the room didn't have very much circulation. And it was getting really hot and uncomfortable. And so I just said, oh, the class, somebody complained about it, but we really didn't have anything that would be considered practical to do. And so I said, okay, everybody, I want you all to take a deep breath, close your eyes. I want you to imagine the temperature getting lower. Now, so I'm the leader, so they close their eyes and imagine the temperature getting lower. I have no idea what each individual was doing, but I do know that in less than 2 minutes, there were some people starting to shiver, and one guy suddenly went like that. The temperature had actually lowered. Now, what helped that happen so dramatically was, it was so outlandish that nobody doubted it. Nobody bothered to say, can we do this? They said, oh, well, this sounds like fun. Let's just, play the game. And down it went. Air is very, very sensitive to our emotions, to our intentions, and it's not controlled by any means, but it is very sensitive and can tend to move easily in response to how we're feeling and what we're thinking. So yeah, even the winds, many, many times, you've been on some of the outings where we've been on, and here's a rain cloud coming right straight toward us, and we just nicely ask it to turn aside, and it does over and over again. Or we go up to the Kalalau lookout. Our group has become famous for this. We'll go up there, and if it's socked in, totally cloudy, you can't see anything, we'll just stand there and chant for a few minutes, asking the wind to lift the clouds, and then it does, and we have a view. Sometimes it's a 50% view if it's really heavy. Sometimes it's immediately totally clear just for the time for us to take our pictures, and then we turn our backs and down it comes again. Right? But the wind is responsive when you treat it like a friend, express your intent by whistling or any other method you want, okay? And you'll get a response of some kind. Because everything is alive, aware, and responsive, and responds most to loving, friendly attention.